Good morning, everybody. It is a sunny Wednesday afternoon here in Phoenix. I just wanted to pop on a minute and just share something with you. Last week I had shared a link for a positive parenting conference. It was online, that was free. I don't know if any of you caught it or not, but I shared it. It wasn't a special needs related parenting class. It was positive parenting, and I shared it because I feel like positive parenting or attachment parenting, gentle parenting, whatever you would like to call it, goes really well with, it's a good parenting style if you have a special needs child, and that's why I shared it. Anytime I watch a parenting class or I read a book that's generally for neurotypical kids, I always figure I'm going to run into some kind of snag or stumbling block, especially when their resolutions all involve discussions. That happens a lot. Sit down and discuss these things, and I do sit down and I talk to Samara about things, but I never know, I don't get feedback a lot, and sometimes it's obvious that she doesn't understand everything that I'm saying because of the auditory processing. So that can be really difficult. What I wanted to talk to you about though was what my big takeaway was from the conference as a whole. And one of the big topics that came up with almost every speaker was, what do we do about our child's big emotions? Big emotions meaning emotional dysregulation and upset, not because of sensory issues. Kids on the spectrum can have sensory issues if they have sensory processing disorder. But I'm just talking about just the big emotions and upset from other needs that need met. And our kids have needs beyond just the sensory needs as well. So they addressed that issue, the issue of how to deal with behaviors, how to deal with the big emotional upset. And it reminded me of an instance that we had recently. We needed to go run some errands and go to Costco and do some things, and she had been watching videos of Yoshi's Crafted World, so I thought she wanted that video game, and I asked her if she wanted it, and she said yes. And I said, well, after we go to Costco, we can go to GameStop and get Yoshi's Crafted World. And I thought everything was fine, and then we do our errands and we go to GameStop, and she's really upset because she doesn't want Yoshi's Crafted World, she wants Mario Maker 2. Any of you that are Mario fans right now, you know that Yoshi's Crafted World for Nintendo Switch, or excuse me, Mario Maker 2 for Nintendo Switch doesn't come out until June 28th, and this was the beginning of May. And they have the case on the shelf because it's available for pre-order, for pre-sale. And of course, trying to explain to her why she can hold the game case in her hand, but there's no game available, is really complicated. GameStop, why? Why do you do these things? So, she left chanting very loudly and distraught, you know, no, not today, not today. Go home. You know, she was really upset. So there are a lot of airplanes today. Okay, so one of the things that they brought up was that a lot of the time when kids have big emotions like that, it's not, what is the problem isn't what seems to be the problem. You know, it's not usually about the wants or the things. The wants and the things tend to just try and fill holes for other needs, and they just tend to be triggers for the big emotions. And when you think about it, I mean, that's even what adults do. How many times have you come home from work or your spouse comes home for work, you know, and you ask them one little thing and they bite your head off, you know, and it's not usually about the thing that you asked about or they asked about. It's usually because your boss made you work through lunch, or you just had a bad day, or the traffic was bad on the way home, or maybe you haven't spent enough time with your spouse, and then as soon as you walk in the door, they ask you to take out the trash, you know, and it's not really about the trash, it's about an unmet need. So our kids are no different, and you have to kind of do a little detective work to try and figure out what the real problem is. And that day I asked her how she felt when she got in the car and she got a little calmed down. I asked how she felt, and that's something I've been doing lately, because I thought, if I at least know how she feels, because she just always looks upset, if I can pinpoint maybe how she feels, then maybe I can try and figure out exactly what's going on, because sometimes she's just upset and it's not because it has to do with a game. Like sometimes I don't even know what the trigger is, and I know it's not sensory because we've pretty much got all of our sensory stuff pinned down by now. But so that day I asked her how she felt, and she said she was bored. She was bored. She said bored. And she's never said that before. It's always just been happy, angry, sad. I didn't even know if she knew what bored meant, so that was really awesome. I know she knows what bored means now. I could relate to it because I hated being drug around, doing boring errands with my mom as a kid. I totally relate to that. But at the same time, my mind wandered back to this when I was listening to these speakers, because she was upset about a game. And then she tells me that she's bored. So she's actually told me what her, partially what her unmet need is. And at the moment, I was still a little bit confused because of that. But then when I was listening to the speakers, like I said, I went back to this and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Before we left to go to Costco, she wanted to play Super Smash Brothers with me. She was already playing it and she invited me to play with her. And I'm like, oh, let's go, we gotta go run these errands, And that's when I realized too, even if she was a verbal child, even if she was a neurotypical verbal child or an autistic verbal child, doesn't matter. In that situation at GameStop, she probably would have said something like, but I want the game, I want it now, I don't understand why I can't get it now, the game case is right there. She probably wouldn't have said, my love cup is empty, I really wanted to spend time with you. She might have said I'm bored, but she did say she was bored. But, my point is, I tend to get really hung up on the fact that we have this communication barrier, and even with a device like AAC, it's just so limited. But my point is, I was reminded that even a neurotypical child, even an adult, neurotypical adult, oftentimes will not express verbally what the real problem is with what's going on with their emotions. So it kind of put me back in that place of, normalcy again. It doesn't matter what if you're neurodivergent or not, you're still going to have these issues. You're still going to have to be very mindful as a parent to try and figure out what exactly the issue is. So anyway, that was my big takeaway from that parenting conference. Maybe it seems silly to you, I don't know. It was kind of a big deal to me, because I just have to let myself not get hung up too much on the communication, and to just be a little bit better of a detective. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you guys today. I hope that it was helpful for you in some way, and I will see you next time. Bye.